I'm Brittany. This is Moran, and welcome to the Erha Book Chat. We're talking about Volume 10 today, specifically chapters. Oh shit. Chapters. Hello. What was it? 308 to 310? It was 8, 9, 10, right? Yes, that's what we're talking about today. One or two things happened, and I have a list of things to talk about, and we're just going to chat. How are we feeling? Just in general, you guys. First of all, Liv has changed her YouTube handle into something truly iconic. I was going to ask you, Liv, if you would like to be nicknamed, not that Liv Stradamus is anything short of absolutely epic and what you deserve. I was going to see if you wanted to go just simply by L as a Death Note reference for the genius, methodical investigator. But Liv Stradamus, now that it's your name, I feel like that's home. But I just wanted to say, I had the thought when I got off the stream last time. I was like, entirely up to you. Both choices, unbelievably perfect and so well earned, it's a little disgusting. Meanwhile, E is apparently battling airports and flights today and is still here at this stream. Hello. I hope your flights are going well. I hope you make your connections. And I saw that you at least had a stop in Texas. I'm glad you're out of there. This is coming from someone who was born and raised in Texas. So, previously on Erha, I have the very first thing that I wrote down, but that's a little heavy to start it off with. So we're going to start off with something wholesome. Old Lou came up out of nowhere to get a wholesome and heartfelt resolution. And I love it when shit like that happens. He didn't have to be put in the forefront for a moment. He didn't have to be spotlighted like that. Of all the millions of threads that are in this series, she didn't have to give us that little sense of progression and that completion. But she did. And if she was going to bring a little minor story or thread forward to highlight, I'm glad she chose Old Lou. That, amongst everything else that was happening, was just one of the several ways that she sort of reached up and clocked you in a good way. Maddie says an angel and a true hero. Absolutely. Oh yeah, Liv says the dad Ron deserved. Truly. Yeah. Maria brought up how Taisha and June reminded Old Lou of his son. I'd forgotten that detail. Thanks so much. It was bad enough remembering that Taisha and June was like, no, go to the other timeline. Your son might be there. I'm armed with tissues today, by the way, on a completely unrelated note. Yeah, veggies. It's the kind of thing she drops casually. She just sprinkles that in amongst the climax of a 10-volume series. It was just beautiful, and I loved it so much. It flies by, but it's so necessary. It's one of those things that really, you highlight stuff like that, and it makes the world feel like real and in motion. And it's just a beautiful touch. Oh my God, wait, Veggies is Heather. Heather? Email Heather. Email Heather? The woman who it is her. The woman I've meant to email for what, 2 months? Oh my god. Of the several icons who are already in the chat, Heather is the lovely, lovely fucking person who gave me this microphone. Just gave it to me. Oh my god, I can't believe you're here. Hi. I could have sworn you had a different... No, I'm thinking of your Discord handle. Never mind. That's why I never would have guessed. Oh, okay. So, wait, I need to mark off what we're talking about here. Otherwise, we're never gonna make any progress. What's another good thing to talk about before we talk about the other thing that's a bit, heavy? I mean, this isn't heavy so much as just curious. I mean, it's kind of heavy. OG Shuimeng never found out who his real father was. And, considering what happens to OG Shuimeng, I'm wondering what you guys think about the fact that she floated that possibility of Shuimeng finding out so heavily. If what was going to happen to Shuimeng was just going to happen to Shuimeng. It makes me curious as to why she would have that be a thing that almost happened at all. Because it wouldn't have changed anything about OG Shuimeng. So I wonder. Oh, Heather brings up that Shuimeng is the classic hero of this story. That's deeply true. Yeah. She adds like hero's journey, classic. Yeah, actually. It's very JRPG in a lot of ways. Very like tragic hero loses his parents and all of that. Oh, Liv says, why uproot who he thought he was for like 40 years now? Yeah, absolutely. I think it was, I think the decision to not have him find out makes total sense because it's like, exactly, this is who he thought, he was for the past 40 years. We're at the end of his story anyway. It wasn't going to change his behavior. It wasn't really going to change anything. It was just going to, like, him not finding out makes total sense. Why she then made it a big teasy moment as if he might find out is what I've been pondering over. Love says, I think it's because we got OG Shuimeng saying he sees Jiangshi as a hero in his timeline. And so it wasn't necessary for him to know more, you know? Yeah, it definitely wasn't necessary for him to know more. I think at least part of the point may come from the first part of that, Love. Just Shuimeng saying he sees Jiangshi as a hero in his timeline informs our Shuimeng. This timeline Shuimeng. I dig that. Ooh, Liv says, I think maybe because Shuimeng can realize being like Shui Jingyang is a choice, it doesn't have to be in his blood. There's probably a whole essay in there about how that relates to everything else on that we've heard from the series about choosing to do good and agency throughout this whole thing. I think that slots right in there. Well done. Excellent points. Piggybacking off of that to the darker topic. All three of them, both Mei's and the OG Shuimeng, threw themselves into the waves. And I wanted to bring this up because, one, I'm still emotional about it. Two, like I said in the stream, it makes sense to me in a borrowed time kind of context, and that what they do all of a sudden made me realize that there was that overwhelming sense of borrowed time from those three. But I can't, I'm having a hard time like expounding on that and like going into detail with that. All my brain comes back to was, yeah, just borrowed time. Because their OG timeline was so utterly destroyed, it was essentially beyond help. And so therefore, like they went down with the timeline. Like a captain in the ship. And I'm just now realizing that the state of the timelines also kind of parallels Morun and Tish and Jun, but we don't have to go into that right now. I just don't typically come across an ending for a character or characters in which they bring about their own end, that yet it feels not just right, but like joyous. Like the art of Shui Meng from that moment is him like blissfully relieved. And especially when it comes to moments like this, I kind of more so than usual am thinking about how this could be received and like the general like large scale optics of characters who have been through decades of pain and strife and torture and all of that, then happily ending their lives. I'm not usually down with things like that. So I was wondering how you guys had received it. Liv said they have nothing left to fight for, so now they can rest. Warriors finally at rest is an important part of that. Thank you, Liv. That's also a common trope of the beleaguered warrior who finally gets to stop fighting and putting down their shield. That's definitely an aspect. Oh, Maddie says, I think that's why it was important the Shuimongs met, so they know their other selves will carry the torch, so to speak. Ow. I mean, not necessarily ow. I'm owing from the emotional impact. Thanks, Maddie. Ooh. Selfie in piggybacking off of the captain going down to the ship says only that the captain was already on land and then threw themselves into the waves again. Right. It was like the greater ship in this case was like the timeline as a whole kind of being snatched back from the brink, but still kind of utterly gone. But Heather added on to that. Where did that go? Heather added, that's what's so heartbreaking, but also awesome because it's a choice. You know? It being a choice. Oh, you made a light bulb go off and then now it flickered out again. Oh, damn. Something about that really connected for me. something like if they had just died at some point in the last final battle or at any point during, these past 40 years, if they had just been like crushed by their circumstances, it almost would have been more tragic than them being able to do what they did and then finally be at peace. I'd be really curious to talk to a military service member about this ending. Because from a metaphorical standpoint, like, they get to rest now and they are happy that they get to go and rest now. Like, that, beautiful. But considering the closest, correlation that we would have in the real world would be someone with very long and arduous military service, I wonder how they would receive that. Selfie also brings up the salient point that Meat Bun had to kill Shui Meng and the Meihan Shuis because no universe can survive 4 Meihan Shuis and Shui belongs with them. Also that, there is also an above the table essence of that, which I could have survived a timeline with all 6 of them, but that's what fan fiction is for. Love is on fire today. Love says, that's the difference between Shui Meng and Hua Binan. Hua Binan sacrificed another world to save himself, whereas Shui Meng sacrificed himself to save this world. Had they stayed, the timeline would change somehow. That is a very deliberate decision on Meat Bun's part. Thank you, love. Oh, Liv says, I have information on that from my grandfather's letters, actually, in regards to military, etc. If you want to, like, DM me on Discord to talk about that, I'd be very, very curious. Maddie said, but the cultivation world, watching Meihan Shui go from 1 person to 4 people. Oh my God, that's right. I must have skipped that part when I was looking back and making notes for today. No, you're right. They already had that realization of, you guys are brothers, which was already fucking beautiful and just peak comedy. But then, no, you're right. 4 of them, Meihan Shuis were just multiplying by, like, exponentially. There was 1, there was 2, then there was 4. Somebody somewhere was expecting another 8. Or at least another 4. So there'd be a total of 8. Like, at some point. No, Liv says, I mean, who knows how many kids he has? That's true. There could be way more than 4. Scratching things off the list. Okay. You guys really opened that up for me. Thank you. To bring up a plot twist now, the souls were in Taisha and Jun's body all along. How literally are we taking that? Like, all along? All along? Because then I have a world building question that I just am not privy to off the top of my head about then what was going on with. No. See, this is where my confusion timelines. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, all that stuff. He was talking about OG Mo Run's souls. Yes? Please advise. Because he said their hearts, Mo Run and Taeshan Jun's hearts fused when they met, which we saw. Heather suggests since they met in the underworldy place. That's a good possibility. Love says, I think he only had the cognizant soul at first. After getting Mo Run's core, though, in the dream, he got all his souls back. And then Liv adds that Taeshan Jun's others were gone. So it had been quite a while. Damn. To come back to the idea that Mo Run had never left, both literally what with the soul situation and fragmented it everywhere, but then also very obviously, as I knock things on my desk, bringing it back to the fact that it has always been Mo Run, and that after the flower and after fucking everything and the Huabinan of it all, Mo Run never left. She gave us an in-world and metaphorical sentiment of Mo Run never left. Even after all of that and all the stuff that he was made to do or just generally inspired to do thanks to the fucking flower, Mo Run's still there. I don't even know if there was anything in particular that I wanted to talk about or any question that I had. I just wanted to cause emotional pain. Well, an emotional experience. Because it's not so much pain as... Maria says the souls thing is a bit confusing, which is understandable because it's so... It's 10 volumes of a lot of details and world building and, rules and then loopholes to the rules and then changes to the loopholes to the rules. And then those rules actually don't apply because we're actually talking about this over here. So not surprising, which is why, I'm generally not embarrassed to ask world building questions anyway, just because of this right here. But especially with this, if I've had to ask some question that feels like it would be a super basic question in another context, I don't feel bad. Ooh. Liv says, I think it was important to make the point, though. Chu Wan-ning kept saying Taeshan Jun is just a corpse because he had to convince himself to kill him. But Mo Run was there all along. Pain. Well, that is a painful aspect of it, isn't it? Although, speaking of Chu Wan-ning and hope, it's curious to me, in a way, that there were a couple of times... Well, actually, maybe it's not curious. Maybe it makes all the sense in the fucking world. That Chu Wan-ning would get to a place where he gives up hope for his happy ending, ultimately. For being with Mo Run, for Mo Run to be okay, anything like that. He gives up by telling himself that Tae-Shan-jun is just a corpse, that Mo-run is... He convinces himself that Mo-run is beyond hope, or this Tae-Shan-jun is beyond hope. And then with volunteering to stay in the OG timeline, he had given up hope on sort of everything at that point. He still had hope that Tae-Shan-jun or Mo-run might be salvageable because he kept Mo-run's body just in case. After Mo-run died the first time, which we'll talk about that, but by the time he gets to the ending in the OG timeline, he has no real reason to think that there would be any hope at all. It was very Romeo and Juliet of him. Ooh, Liv says the one selfish choice he made was let me die with him. You're not fucking wrong. All of that selflessness and being a good Shizun and being of service to everyone. Not to mention everything that he gives to Mo-run, literally, figuratively, emotionally. Heather says another Shimei and Mo-run foil. Shimei wants to be accepted by the demon race and isn't. Mo-run is accepted but rejects it. Motherfucker. Motherfucker. Oh. Peonies had a little very simple overview of the soul situation that I'm going to state before I get to what Heather just reminded me of that's on my list. Peony says basically everyone has multiple souls. One of OG Mo-run's was sent back in time to become Mo Zongsha. When Tae-Shan-jun got his core, they were put back together. Beautiful summation. Thank you. Ao says, I just can't believe I didn't see the Mo-run as a demon thing coming this whole time. It's just another thing that ties Shimei and Mo-run together. In that regard, absolutely. I'm sure on a reread, Mo-run being that fucking rare type of beauty feast is all over the place. I'm sure everything is all over the place. Every plot twist is all over the place. Every truth is going to be all over the place. And I'm going to be flaming angry the entire time I do a reread. With the beauty feast thing coming about here at the tail end of the main narrative, because if today's chapter, which is like 40 pages long, isn't the end of the main narrative, I will be shocked. That will be a plot twist in and of itself. So as we come in on the last 40 pages, it's the one, like, obviously, Mo-run turning out to be a fucking fuck-ass beauty feast is insane. And I love it dearly. As a fan and a reader, I'm on my ass permanently. And that's before we even talk about the Liv Stradamus of it all. All right? I'm on the fucking floor. As a writer, it might, in hindsight, or like when I look at it overall, and this comes with a grain of salt because I have yet to read the last 40 pages and the bonus stories, but what I'm thinking right now is that it kind of feels like she made that a thing and did her due diligence and threaded it through with a shit ton of evidence, I'm absolutely sure. Just as but she's really only using it as a get out of jail free card. And I would like to see it have more. I'm searching for the right, more bearing on the story, which could very well come into play in the next 40 pages. This is by no means a hard and firm take at all. Like I said, grain of salt. Or have more, I don't mean consequences like negative effects. I mean like consequences as in things that happen as a result of this. Because what it feels like at the moment is that we had, 10 volumes of all of this, of things looking more and more bleak at every possible turn. And then in a reasonably short-ish scene, it all turns around and suddenly we get to go home and everything's fine. And again, as a fan, I'm over the fucking moon. I'm just curious from a structure standpoint and in a how built out that is into the rest of the story or what happens after that. Love said it is obvious in one thing. Remember volume 4 Chuaning made high tongue flowers, but Morun made red butterflies. My entire reread is just going to be me on fire. I mean, that also comes from a little bit of my ignorance, because I think the only other time I'd come across the butterfly thing was Heaven Official's Blessing. So I didn't know that that was a thing. In hindsight, terribly obvious. Liv said, Huabinan is dead, but what if Shimei finds out? There's something I didn't write down. That's right. We still don't know where the fuck Shimei is. Considering that it feels like we're headed into the, I hesitate to say it, happily ever after denouement of it all. I don't think he's going to emerge in a negative way, but I'm still deeply curious as to where that fucking water bitch is. Where did he go? Where has he been? Oh, I already brought that up. That too. Oh, quick question, just a clarification to make sure that I have it right. So it turned out that Chuaning had put Morun's body at Nanping Mountain. Just a quick clarification. Nanping Mountain is indeed where Morun died. Where they spent that time and Morun died. So my understanding is that Chuaning didn't put the body anywhere except where it was the whole time. Yes, good. See, I thought that felt really right as to that's what Nanping Mountain was, but I couldn't quite remember, so I had to ask. But I got something right. That's always a red letter day. And then just before we hop on over to the reading stream for today, I wanted to just give a shout out to the Seven Seas translation team, because I don't know what the original Chinese said, but specifically describing at the very end of chapter 310, specifically describing the look in Morun's eyes as having unspeakable tenderness. That's going to be a phrase that stays with me. The last line of the chapter, already life-ending. Already one of those things that you can't think of without getting choked with emotion. But unspeakable tenderness is right up there for me. That goes right alongside that last line. There is something absolutely perfect and evocative and emotional about that particular phrase used in that particular moment. That was beautiful. And now that I think about it, I think it took me a solid 30 seconds to even be able to say the words past, all of the tears that were clogging my throat. And then, yes, Love saying the fact that Tae Shen-jun chose to give Morun a chance to tell his feelings to Chu Wan-ing. Tae Shen-jun did that, yeah. No, having Tae Shen-jun be rid of the flower's influence and giving him one end moment to go out on in which he was under his own power, fucked up, and I'll never forgive her for it. Of course, that's how Tae Shen-jun should end. Duh. It could, it technically could have ended in plenty of other ways, but the relief, the strongest choice, in my opinion, is having him have that one fight, that one moment with Chu Wan-ing, that one opportunity. That just makes it so fucking terribly meaningful. Okay, it is now 2:56. It's time to hop on over to the other stream. Thank you for chatting with me today. I'll be here at 2:15 on Thursday to, I'm sure, sob over the end of the main narrative in Erha and over whatever the fucked up bullshit she's about to give us for the ending. If it's not 39 pages of emotional smut, I will be demanding that from every single bonus story. I'm gonna hop on over there. I'll see you in a second. You guys are lovely. And I'll be over there in a minute.